We are, yes, we are recording tonight, but we are discussing the impacts of the opioid overdose and having a little community conversation here. There will be points in tonight where you can ask questions if you'd like in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself a little bit later after each speaker speaks. And this is in honor of Black Balloon Day. A couple housekeeping items. I would ask that you please turn off your microphone while our speakers are speaking tonight. If you have a question, please type it in the chat box. We have somebody monitoring the chat box from beginning to end. If you would like to remain anonymous, we respect that. You can hover over your picture or your name, locate the 3 dots, click and rename. And you can, of course, also turn off your video. My name is Connie Terry, and I'm the program assistant for the Opioid Committee. Tonight, we are honoring the lives lost to opioid addiction and death in Steuben County in honor of Black Balloon Day. Annual Black Balloon Day brings awareness to the lives lost to overdose in the United States and all over the world. Black balloons serve as the symbol for the day, representing and commemorating the lives lost to overdose death in each community. Overdoses are the leading cause of accidental death in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Last year, the United States surpassed 100,000 overdose deaths, the highest number to date. Nationally, experts blame fentanyl for the rise in the overdose situation. More people have died from fentanyl overdose than COVID-19, car accidents, and suicides, making the human cost of the opioid epidemic staggering. Though any drugs can contribute to overdose death, opioid drugs are responsible for most. In 2021, there were 264 reported overdoses in Steuben County, New York, up from 141 in 2020. 15 lives were lost last year to overdose deaths. The majority of overdoses in Steuben County were as a result of heroin use, with fentanyl overdose being the second highest contributor. Tonight's guests are Bob Riegelsberger and Brandon Buter. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bob Riegelsberger from Wayland, New York, and he's here to tell his story about his son, Ryan.
Ryan,
Bob, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, Ryan Robert Riegelsberger. A life well lived, but way too short. How do I talk about the son I lost? A son who was better looking, taller, much smarter than me. Drugs and alcohol plagued Ryan from his teens. Trouble in high school caused him to be kicked off of sports teams, and he was banned from school activities 2.5 years after graduation. But he was one of only 8 who graduated with honors. I could go on for an hour, probably more, about the thrills of victory and the agonies of defeat. But the real crux was our son had a problem. He was in drug treatment in his teens, and he told them everything they wanted to hear. College was the same ups and downs. Took 5 years, but he got a 4-year degree in surveying. He got a job in Maryland from an interview at Alfred State. He did well, got another job in Maryland, ultimately serving as the crew chief for the Woodrow Wilson Bridge project. The drinking and the drugs continued. That job ended due to the economic downturn in 2008. Ryan had a friend going to college in Hawaii, and he had an extra room, so Ryan thought he would go there for 6 months, on his Maryland unemployment and look for work. 3 years later, his friends begged us to get him on a plane for home because he needed help. He had no money or shelter. His first flight was aborted because he was too drunk to board. Once he was home, a series of jobs and more problems. Forced rehab for a month, and again, he told them everything they wanted to hear. Finally, with the help of his aunt, who was a recovering alcoholic and was then a counselor, we were planning an intervention. Ryan got wind of this and quickly found a job opportunity in Florida. He got a series of jobs and lost them. 4 years before this, I was talking with a disabled Vietnam vet who stays at our cabin in the summer. He is a recovering alcoholic and said that if Ryan doesn't seek recovery, he will die. This hit me like a brick, and I realized he was right. In my conversations with Ryan from that point, when he was in questionable situations, I would ask him, "Do you want to die?" He would always say, "Dad, I can handle this." He was so smart and made so many friends. We last saw Ryan alive New Year's Eve day to 2016. We had flown him to our daughter's home in Virginia for a holiday celebration. We put him on a plane to Miami where he had no home but his car and no real job. We encouraged him to make contact with a friend of a friend who was living in South Beach, so at least he might have shelter. Little did we know that the friend had bigger drug problems than Ryan. They hung at the beach for that spring and summer. I thought to myself, why am I working like a dog and this kid is hanging at the beach? Then Hurricane Irma hit. They had to evacuate South Beach because projected storm surge was going to wipe them out. They got a hotel room in Daytona Beach, but were turned away when Daytona was evacuated. The hotel said they had a room available in New Orleans. It was a long ride, but they got there safe from the storm. My wife, Nancy, was on the phone with him saying, New Orleans is no place for two guys trying to give up drugs and alcohol. Ryan said, "Don't worry, Mom, this is New Orleans. We're just going to have a good time." Those were the last words she ever heard. For days, we tried to reach him. Finally, after a week of calls, we got a call from an investigator from the New Orleans Police Department. He said 2 bodies were found in a hotel room and that Ryan's ID was found. Did we have any clues that could help them ID the bodies? There were needles and drugs found in the room, along with their little dog, Lucky. The tattoo Ryan had on his arm matched the photo Nancy sent to them and sealed the ID. Facial recognition would have been impossible because of the decomposition. It was quite clear that these guys ran into the wrong people on Bourbon Street that night. There were hotel security cameras showing that one or more other people entered the room. The night of fun and partying turned into a terrible death scene. It was suspected that the heroin was laced with deadly dose of fentanyl. This was not normal drugs they used in Miami. I can't describe the horror we went through the next few days and weeks, but I hope you'll never have to tell your mother that their son or grandson died from an overdose. It was like sticking a knife into them. My wife and I could have played the blame game because Ryan started down the path to addiction with pot and hard cider I had stored away, or the continuing enabling that Nancy provided, but we held strong together. We both still imagine him laying there dead in that hotel room. We had hopes and dreams for him every minute of the 35 years he lived. He didn't choose to die. Somebody took his $20 or more and gave him poison. There's a boy that grew up in our neighborhood They didn't find the wrong people on Bourbon Street, but right here on Main Street in Wayland, in our little town. He got into big drug trouble and the judge gave him the choice: shock camp and rehab or jail. I spoke with him last week and he proudly said 2 years and 3 months clean. While your child or friend is still alive, you still have the chance to help them. When they're gone, all you can do is look for cardinals. They are a sign that my son is near. And off the script, if our experience can help just one person through their family, their friends, whatever it takes, as long as they're alive, we still have a chance to seek recovery.
Thank you so much, Bob, for sharing Ryan's story. And I would invite anybody that's here with us tonight, if you have questions, please unmute yourself and feel free to ask.
Please.
If you're not comfortable, you can type them in the chat box.
I just want to say thank you for, for sharing that part of your family, your story with everybody. I can't even imagine, what that must be like for you. But as you said, if Ryan's story can help one person, then it makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Even though there's not a lot of people here tonight, each one of these people can share that story with their circle of friends. So we can pass it on. We can be ripples in a wave and just continue the conversation with our families.
This is Hilda.
Hi, Hilda.
It's a very difficult story to tell, and I really appreciate hearing it. Very sad.
Well, there's hope that his life can help save other lives. That's all.
Okay, we're going to move on. And if you have any questions, please know that, after the next speaker, you're welcome to ask them as well. And now our second speaker is Brandon Buter from Horseheads, New York. He serves as the chairperson of the Steuben Prevention Coalition's Opioid Committee. He is a New York State certified peer specialist for AIM, Independent Living Center. And I'll turn it over to Brandon.
Well, like Connie said, I'm Brandon Buter, certified recovery peer advocate with AIM Independent Living Center. Also the OD MAP peer for Steuben County. So give a little background about that. We try to make contact with individuals that overdose within 24 to 48 hours. So an event like this isn't just about my story, the story of loss that I've been around personally with friends and loved ones. It's about families in our very community that have lost people in the last couple of years specifically. So, my story is one of loss from many people. I've been close with or could call friends 50 plus people that have lost their fight to the disease of addiction. So to say that as a 36-year-old, that's insanity. And every time I say it, it gives me chills up the back of my spine because, no person should know 50 plus people that have died, let alone from the disease of addiction. And, my path started this time when I moved I went to Buffalo for treatment and I moved there. And through recovery, I met a girl and started to get emotional, sorry. And we built a life together. And in July 8th, 2018, she lost her battle with the disease of addiction, and she's Kelsey Anthon, the mother of my child, Zion. And, you know, it's like so many stories before. People find recovery, they put everything into it, and all it takes is complacency. A little bit of complacency and a little bit of pullback is all it took for both of us to slide back in that pattern of behavior. And, you know, I thank my higher power on a daily basis that I'm still here, because I overdosed the day before she passed away and was actually in the hospital when she passed. So, you know, I say that, and this is my story is a pattern of loss. As early as a year after I got out of high school, one of my best friends of my whole life passed away from an opioid overdose. I've known multiple people that have been in recovery and lost their battles to the disease of addiction. And it's, you know, I want to take a little bit different path and not focus so much on the individual, but the message of people that are suffering from substance use disorder are majority of the time running from something, trying to fill a void or fill a hole or shut the voice off in their head. And, you know, I'm a person in long-term recovery, coming up on 4 years clean. And at a point in my life, I overdosed multiple times. I did not think I would make it out of this alive, you know, and I actually tried to take my own life with the use of drugs because I didn't see another way out. And in that path, you know, I want people that see this or people that are on here right now to know that there is another path. There is the opportunity. And I said in an interview the other day, as long as you're drawing breath, there's hope. Anybody can recover and will recover if you're willing to really put yourself out there and express what you're going through and ask for help. And that's one of the biggest things I can say to people that will see this is don't look down on people that come to you and say they need help, because like, you know, Bob and Nancy's son, like Kelsey, like so many others, you know, it's just stigma has turned so many people away from recovery. It's insane. And I see it on almost a daily basis within our community. You know, speaking with family members that have had a loved one overdose or have lost a loved one to overdose, and the same thing repeats. You know, this stigma even lives in families after loss. And that's one of the biggest hurdles we have to get past in this community. We really need to push a message of inclusion and hope, and don't put people down, and don't think that people are any less because they chose a coping mechanism that maybe you didn't. You know, I can tell you the people that I have met are in active addiction and recovery, and the families that have lost loved ones are some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, because we all share something as human beings, and that's pain, trauma, you know, and trauma has set so many people down a path. And I think it's important to state that, like Connie said at the beginning, last year there was 103,000 reported deaths due to substance use disorder. And just think about the impact. That's not just 103 people that are impacted by that. That's millions, because think of how many people are impacted by one death, right? One death because people felt hopeless. People felt that there was not a better way, that they couldn't get help, or there wasn't going to be sustained recovery. And, you know, I was thinking of what I was going to share tonight, and that's really the message I want to push tonight, is the message of hope. that people can recover, and it's never too late. As long as you are willing and able, anyone can recover, as long as you're willing to put yourself out there and to deal with the trauma and the pain that you're suffering from. Because I came into this, as just a person that lost someone that just wanted to raise his child, and the fire and drive inside of me because of loss has pushed me into a place to where I am today, to where all I want to do is help individuals. Like Bob shared before, as long as if it helps one person, right? If it helps one person, that's all I care about, is just spreading the message of hope. And that, events like this, where Black Balloon Day, to bring awareness. That's what this is about. This is about remembering those that we lost to substance use disorder. But this is about spreading a message of hope, of recovery, of positivity, and I can't say it enough, man. It's never too late, from the places that I was, from where I've been, to the place where, I was using every day to die because I didn't see another way out. So to go from that to where I am now in 4 short years is staggering. I never thought any of this would be possible. I thought I would always have a life of just sustain, just same thing day in and day out. And to go out there and to do the work that I do on a daily basis, and work with families that have lost people, and work with families and people that have overdosed, is a blessing. Because to be that hope in somebody's life at that very, traumatic time is a blessing, and I mean, I can't say it enough, man. It's never too late. It is never too late, as long as you are still alive, to get help. And the help within our community and the people within our community have been so amazing throughout the county, from law enforcement down. Like, we're all in this fight together, and we're here if anyone ever needs help, if families need help, if families, loved ones, people suffering from substance use disorder want to reach out, and I just can't say it enough. It's majority of the people that I have met through this process, it's trauma based, right? People have gone through a lot, and we can't judge people's trauma. One person's trauma with one situation could not phase you, but could be devastating to them, right? We can't judge trauma in one way or another, and we can't judge people on the ways that they cope, right? A person that couldn't utilize the coping mechanism some people that are normal might be able to, and that some people found that a substance that they put in their body can help them. It doesn't make anybody less of a person, right? And that's the stigma that we need to fight against, that recovery is possible, and that anybody that is an addict or in active addiction is just as valuable as the next person, right? And it's a message of hope, and people that pass away from substance use disorder are just that. They're people. They're sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts. Everyone has a family. Everyone has a story. And, I just hope that we can bring awareness to that and recognize the people lost. Like Connie said, there's 264 overdoses reported within the county, 15 fatalities last year. There's been 3 fatalities this year alone. So people are dying within our community on a daily basis. And these numbers may not seem huge to a lot of people, but that also doesn't account for the people that died in other manners as a result of substance use disorder, right? Because across the country, 103,000 plus people died last year from substance use disorder. And that's, like I said, millions of people that were affected by that. And this will continue to roll, but I want the message to be of hope and that people can recover, that, you know, it's a process and it's a lifelong process, but it's worth it. Every day is worth it, you know, and to be here where I am, and thankfully not a balloon that will be released for me, you know, and I just can't say it enough, man. Like, recovery is possible. People are here for you. People are here to help. And I know when I was told that Kelsey passed, it was, like Bob said, just a knife in the heart. There's no other way to describe it. And every day that I wake up and see my son, it's just, I mean, he, you know, I lost a fiance, I lost a best friend, I've lost so many people, but he lost his mother, you know, and it's something that we can't get back. And I hope that every day and everything I do now is for him, and for him to have the ability to look at me and be proud, you know, and to think that I did his mother justice. Because, you know, what's happening within our communities and across our country with fentanyl, it's ravishing. It's just tearing communities and families apart, and it's devastating. There's no other word for it. It's devastating. And, you know, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but, you know, recovery is possible. There's help out there. You know, we have amazing resources within our area, and I'm always willing to help or talk to anybody. And real quick, I just have some pictures here that I want to show, just so that people can put a face with the name. So this is Kelsey, and this is our son.
Oh, it's beautiful. They're beautiful.
So
Brandon,
with that said, you know, that's just another story of many, and I don't want to keep repeating myself and saying it over and over again, but recovery is possible.
Brandon,
Yeah.
we have a question in the
Yeah.
chat box. Stacy, want to grab that?
How do you know when you're addicted? I know some who don't have an addiction to the street drugs, but feel addicted to prescription drugs.
I mean, there's many ways to tell. I mean, if you're asking that question, you probably are addicted, right? Like, I mean, you know, there's different levels of addiction too, though. And I'm a firm believer that everyone's addicted to something, right? But a substance such as opioids, it's it's a physical addiction, not only a mental addiction. So if you try stopping without a taper and you feel physically ill, then you have become addicted. And, you know, physical addiction, but mental addiction is just as devastating as physical addiction. It's the draw. Addiction is the compulsion. It's the obsession and compulsion to pursue the substance because you feel there's no other way, right? For example, like when I tried to stop on multiple occasions without going through detox or medicated assisted treatment, it's like having the flu times 100, right? And I always say this to families is, imagine having the flu times 100 and you know there's something a phone call away that could take it away in an instant. and that just brings it into perspective for some people to say it like that. But the reality is everybody's addicted to something, whether it be a substance or not. But the drugs are just a symptom of the disease of addiction. It's just a small part, because recovery is a change of attitudes and behaviors. It's bigger than just setting the drug down. It's completely reshaping yourself as a human being and changing your people, places, and things. I mean, I hope that was an answer or did it justice, but
I'm going to go ahead.
Uh,
I was just going to share the screen for help. Go ahead.
Okay, what happened?
You can talk, you're there.
Okay, I would just like to say is that associations are important too. You know what I'm saying? That this heroin is not FDA approved. I mean, the fentanyl concentration is so unpredictable that, it's like playing with fire.
yeah.
And it's
And
everywhere.
there's something in the chat that somebody's daughter took Roxy, which is oxycodone, 30s or 15s. And I think it's important to say that one of the biggest threats within our community right now is there are press pills in the area. So people may think they're taking a prescription that was created in a laboratory by big pharma, and the reality is somebody was in a room somewhere with a pill press and pressed it straight with fentanyl. I know there have been overdose deaths attributed to that, and there have been numerous overdoses within Steuben County that are attributed directly to generic or pressed pills with fentanyl. So first off, tell her to be extremely, extremely careful if she's going to continue down that path. But if she wants help, I saw that you said that she doesn't want something on her record. And I can tell you that if you want to reach out to me, you want to reach out to Casa Trinity, SCASIS, Steuben County Alcohol Substance Abuse Services, anyone on here pretty much, nothing will go on a record, right? In my everyday job, I'm bound by HIPAA, and I don't need to report or have anything on anybody's record. So don't ever allow somebody to say that's a deterrent to them seeking treatment, because it will not go on your record and they will not know. And it's something that's a very dangerous situation. So please seek help.
If you want to take a picture of the screen, so you have these resources available. You also can use the QR code that will take you directly to the Steuben Prevention Coalition website. And from there, you can send an email, and we will forward it on to Brandon if you want to make a connection with Brandon. I should have put Brandon's information on here. I don't know why I didn't. But he is available at AIM in Elmira. And in fact, I think you could probably just Google his name, Brandon Buter, and his contact information would probably come up real quick.
I'll throw in the chat right now too.
Okay, good. Are there any other questions that anyone has?
Brandon, thank you for sharing your story. This is Hilda. You said, I think you said at the beginning that most of the time people are running away from something. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, so like running away from, so for example, I can only really speak on my own personal experience. And I used a lot of the time I would get in recovery and I would go back out because the noise in my head, just the obsession and compulsion and degrading of myself that I would do in my own mind, it came to the point where I had a choice of either take my life or use. And, you know, it sounds crazy to say, but thankfully I used every time so I could still be here to keep fighting. But working with individuals, I've come to the realization that a lot of people are dealing with trauma. A lot of people are dealing with self-hatred. And the disease of addiction is bigger than a substance. It's the obsession, it's the compulsion, it's the just repeating in your head of things and not being able to shut the noise off. I mean, it's a mental illness, you know. It's no different than bipolar disorder or, you know, any mental illness that just, it can have people self-harm or suicidal ideations. You know, it's just people have found a way to cope that is not the healthiest and eventually turns into a full-blown addiction that keeps rearing its ugly head.
So you said that about mental health and mental illness and suicide. I did ask Tim Marshall when the suicide hotline was going to get started. Is it 988, I think? And he told me it looks like July. So when that does happen, we need to really publicize that as well.
I mean, any of the numbers that are on the screen can help as well. 211 is a great resource. Crisis helpline, it's a great resource. The Hope Line's a great resource. Just reach out. That's it. Reach out and allow the people in position to do what they can.
Okay, are there any more questions in the chat?
No.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to share with us tonight. I want to thank our speakers, Bob Riegelsberger and Brandon Buter. But those of you that joined us, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Here's our website, Steuben Prevention Coalition website. And you can make contact with any of us through that. And I want to wish you all good health and restful evening after. It's going to be hard to process a lot of this stuff tonight. But thank you for coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everyone.
it.
Thank you.
Second. And I do want to stress something else just got sent to me in the chat about the pills that are being taken, and that those are the exact pills that are being pressed with fentanyl. So again, please reach out. We're not only here for individuals, we're here for families as well. I'm also a family support navigator. So if any families just want to reach out and talk and try to find out what the best resources or course of action, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good.